Why do I believe that God created life through evolution, in particular a kind of evolution, namely theistic evolution? Well, evolution boils down to the concept that one species came from another. The first species gave rise to the second, and the second to the third, and the third to the fourth. And this shows wisdom. Why start from scratch each time you create? A wise creator would use the present creatures to produce the future creature. And Proverbs 3:19 says that by wisdom God created the earth, by understanding He created the heavens. Psalms 104 verse 24 says, "How manifold are your works, O Lord! In wisdom you have created them all." Psalms 136 verse 5 says, "Give thanks to the Lord who by understanding made the heavens," which means the universe, because the universe and the heavens are synonymous. My point is, the Bible is very clear that God created through wisdom. So, which shows more wisdom? Using evolution as his instrument, or creating everything by scratch? Obviously, the first choice is the correct answer. Now, a lot of Christians hate evolution because they think it automatically, or it has to, mean that life created itself, that things came through chance. Well, God can use chance. In Ecclesiastes it says, the race is not to the swift, the battle is not to the strong, the wealth is not does not come only to the wise. It says time and chance happen to them all. And God can use chance, but God has to be given credit for creation. God has to be given credit for evolution, because evolution is too improbable to happen by itself, or by chance. In the New Testament, where Christ tells Peter to go fishing and take the first fish and look in its mouth, or open its mouth, and reach in and get a coin, and use the coin to pay taxes for Peter and for Christ. This shows Christ's ability to manipulate chance, or to do the totally improbable. And it's not impossible. To find a coin in a fish's mouth is not impossible, but it's still a miracle. Miracles don't have to concern things that are impossible. It can simply involve things that are improbable, and that's where evolution comes in. Certain evolutionary steps, like the nose of an animal. Before there was a whale, there was a hippopotamus land animal that went into the sea, and over time its nose moved from its face to the top of its head, and it became a whale. and it's totally improbable for a nose to move to the top of your head, to the back of your head, and to become a blowhole for a whale. I'm saying that the blowhole on a whale is the nose, and it's moved in a totally ridiculous way. And anyway, now evolution boils down to the idea that the first species produced the second, and then the third, and the fourth, and so on. And what precedent or what basis do we have to support that in nature? Well, first of all, Paul the Apostle says that God reveals himself through nature. So, and then he goes on to say that nature, the information from nature, is the Word of God. Because in Romans 10, verse 16 and 17, Paul is talking about the Word of God, and then he says, have they not heard? We can paraphrase that to this way: have they not heard the Word of God? And then he says, yes. Then he quotes Psalm 19, verse 4, where it says, their words have gone out to the ends of the earth. Now, whose words is Paul talking about? Whose words is David talking about in Psalm 19? It's talking about the words of the skies, because that psalm starts off with the statement, the heavens or skies declare the glory of God. In other words, they reveal the things of God. God is revealing himself through the skies, through the light that comes from the stars. Scientists take that light and they discover that the universe is expanding, and on that basis they come up with the Big Bang Theory, which is to the glory of God. But getting back to the question of theistic evolution, okay, this idea of species 1 giving rise to species 2, and then to 3, and then to number 4, and so on, this is preceded by on the level of elements. Before there were species of life forms, there were the elements, the evolution of elements. The first element was hydrogen. It's the very simplest element. Just like the very first life form was the very simplest life form. Well, hydrogen has like one electron and one proton. And then there was helium, and so forth. And, the third one was more complex than the second one, and the fourth was more complex than the third, and so on, all the way up to element number 100, and so on. And the idea is that this evolution in elements serves as a paradigm or a template that life forms have followed, if you accept the concept of theistic evolution. Pardon me for looking closely at the screen, though there was some writing on the screen. I think it said that while I'm doing a video, while it's charging, that increases the temperature, or something like that. Anyway, let me get back to the video. Yes, I want to emphasize that it makes sense for the Creator to base a new species on the preceding species. Take religion, for example. Christianity, think of that as a new religion. Now, it came from the previous religion, Judaism. So you could say that Christianity evolved from Judaism. It didn't start from scratch. That would be absurd. That would be stupid. God is not an idiot. And you could say that Christianity is a mutated form of Judaism. Christianity has shed some aspects of Judaism that were meant to be only temporary. And just like a new species will, shed some aspects of the previous species, like we have shed the body hair of the pre-human primates, and so on. We are actually weaker. So you could say that we are not superior as far as strength is concerned. But in place of strength, there is, a greater brain power. And so there's a trade-off. And but I want to say that evolution needs God. Everybody knows that mutations overwhelmingly are deleterious. They're not positive. They're harmful, and only 1 out of like 1,000 is positive. So if you have some genes, and then you have mutation, the chance that your offspring are going to be benefited by that mutation is, it's overwhelmingly improbable. And yet we have positive mutations occurring. I would have to say that God is behind the positive mutations. I'm going to try to keep this short because I hate having like a video of 24 minutes, 30 minutes, or an hour. I like 15 minutes. And these fundamentalists that are against evolution, they say things like evolution is so improbable that it couldn't happen. Well, they're leaving God out. They're as bad as the atheistic scientists in the way they think of evolution as necessarily godless. You don't have to. Evolution does not have to be naturalistic. It can be theistic evolution. There were two discoverers of the principles of evolution. There was, besides Darwin, who left God out for the most part. There was also Alfred Russel Wallace, and he was more on the side of like Asa Gray, who was this botanist, a professor at Harvard, and he advised Darwin, don't leave God out, give God credit. And while Darwin didn't do that, Wallace did. And so theistic evolution goes back all the way to the founders of the theory of evolution, namely Wallace. And don't think that we're limited to the definition of evolution according to these atheistic scientists. They don't have a monopoly on the definition of evolution. Theistic evolution makes just as much sense, makes much more sense than naturalistic or atheistic evolution. And if you have any comments, you can email me. I'm sorry that I don't really keep up with my emails the way I should, but I'll try to make an extra effort to look up any emails you send. I'm at joegrace@gmail.com. JOEGRACE. Also, look under the video for the transcript. I try to write out most of the transcript for each video.